Overcoming Emotional Burnout, a Therapist Guide. This is more pertinent than my therapist guide to the best taco places in Phoenix. But I could also tell you where to go. Mended Light! My dad was a bow hunter. You know this. My dad would bring down deer and elk. He'd get the tree stand all set up. I would go camping with him and hiking with him and get him all set up for his hunt. And he taught me archery. Now, I was never much of a hunter. I guess I'm too tender-hearted for the little critters.
Seriously, still not a hunter.
Still not a hunter.
Into archery.
I was really into archery for a few years as a kid, and I got pretty good at it. I was also lazy and took a lot of shortcuts. And my dad came home one day, and he found my bow in the garage. And the thing is, I didn't have one of these modern compound bows with like the pulley system and the strong metal cables. It was a classic Robin Hood style,
Old school.
Yeah, you have to bend it, and then you have to string it, and the wood has to be taut, and the cord has to be taut.
Yeah.
And it was a pain in the butt to pull it down and unstring it, but it was even more of a pain in the butt when it was straight to bend it and string it. And sometimes it would snap, it hit me in the face, and sometimes it was just a whole ordeal. So I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna leave the bow. Once it's strung, I'm just gonna leave it as it is in the garage, and it's there when I use it. And I'll never forget this lesson that my dad taught me. He brought me the bow, and he showed me that the cord was starting to fray. Mm-hmm. And he showed me that the wood was beginning to splinter, and that my bow was losing its snap, its elasticity, its power, because everything was getting loose and flaccid or splintered and broke.
Yeah, it was getting worn out.
It was getting worn out, even though I wasn't using it, just from being held in this taut, tight position.
Because it was in a constant state of tension.
Mm-hmm. And my dad said, son, you have to unstring the bow. Otherwise, it will get worn out and it won't be of use to you anymore. And I don't remember if he then took a moment to teach a life lesson of the bow is a lot like us, or I did that with my own brain later. But I do have this thought of we are like that bow, that if we're in a constant state of tension, if we don't unstring the bow, then we're going to fray, we're going to splinter, and we're not going to be of use to ourselves or to anybody else. The parallels to overcoming emotional burnout, I think, are obvious.
Well, and any type of burnout, really. There's always an emotional component to burnout. Burnout is an indicator that your needs are chronically not being met. It could be multiple reasons that your needs aren't being met. You could be self-sacrificing to the point of self-betrayal, or even past self-betrayal. You could not even know what your own needs are. And there's a component of not allowing yourself to rest. Yeah. And quite often that component of not allowing yourself to rest is because you are trying to earn your worth through doing, or through serving others, or through accomplishment, whatever it may be.
And this is something you can relate to because you didn't let yourself rest for like 35 years.
Give or take.
Give or take.
A couple of years.
Can you speak to that? Yeah.
I can speak to that. If you've taken our personalities course, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't taken our personalities course, you can still follow along, but go take our personalities course because it's free and it's fun and it helps you understand yourself better, and it also helps you understand other people better, particularly people who are drastically different than you. Anyway, so I'm a thinker-closer personality type. And closer personality types, they are get-it-done kind of people. They are pull yourself up by your bootstraps. They are stoic and hardy, and and they do a lot of great things. And that is all wonderful. For me, between that being my personality, my nature, and the environment that I grew up in, which would have been nurture, I had previously realized that I had oriented myself to accomplishment, but the big light bulb for me about 4 or 5 years ago was that I had the unconscious belief that it didn't matter what the problem was, work was the solution.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that work isn't a good solution to a lot of life challenges.
I was going to say, to be fair, it often is.
Yeah, but that was my mindset. Like, if there is a problem, I fix it by working. And there's no problem I can't fix by working. And I was in a life situation where it became real clear to me that that wasn't actually true. And for the first time in my life, I'm like, well, what do I do? Because one, I realized that work isn't the solution. And two, I realized I can't fix this. And in that moment, I knew I needed to start resting. I knew that I was way overwhelmed, way burnt out, like way over the top. And I needed to start incorporating other things into my life that were important instead of just accomplishment. And I say that because it wasn't just work accomplishment or school accomplishment. Like I was showing up, as a mother and as a spouse, like I was showing up in very important, supportive ways, but I was doing it to the neglect of my own needs.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. So if any of this is resonating with you, I would say get curious about what your own needs are. And you might need to start with giving yourself permission to have needs and that it's okay.
This reminds me of a Marvel character named Bucky Barnes.
Okay.
You're going to be the surrogate for anyone who hasn't watched the Marvel movies. Bucky is Captain America's best friend.
Okay.
He seemingly fell to his death, but was actually made similarly superpowered and turned into an evil assassin.
Oh no.
Repeated brainwashing and just reprogramming. And so he's had a lot of trauma, and he's lived his entire life at the service of others before he was traumatized, and then at the service of this militant evil organization for a long time.
Now that he is traumatized.
Well, Captain America rescues him.
Does he?
And he goes to Wakanda forever, and is rehabilitated. But what he's never really had is rest. He's always fighting some battle to fight or some person to help, depending on which version of him was. But he never really made time for himself. And we have seen him with anguish in his eyes nonstop. And this is the first time we see him with something else.
Are you playing around with that man again?
No.
You're teasing him again.
I'm not.
Rest.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
So curiously, there have been battles to fight and things going on, and everybody on the Avengers is like, yeah, but don't help us. Like, you go here, find some peace and solitude.
Good morning, Sergeant Barnes.
Bucky.
How are you feeling?
Good. Thank you.
Come. Much more for you to learn.
Much more for you to learn?
Much more for you to learn. So it's a very simple little scene, but it's really about, Sebastian Stan is the actor, it's really about the look on his face of, like, he's okay. Mm-hmm. And the fact, for the first time in decades, because he and Captain America are both like 80 years old. For the first time in decades, he's okay. Why? Because he found peace and solitude, and he took time for himself. And he returns to the fray, as it were, but instead of damaged and unpredictable, he's calm and he's steady and he's grounded. Why? Because instead of there's always problems to be solved, there's things I need to make amends for, there's things I need to fix, he could just be. Mm-hmm. And then return to all of that. And it's funny, if you've seen Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Bucky is burnt out in that movie. That's when he's at his lowest point. That's when he's at his most unpredictable and miserable, is because he's burnt out.
So it's important to recognize that being in a place of burnout is when our nervous system is in a dysregulated state. Mm-hmm. So recognize when you're in a place of burnout that your nervous system is dysregulated and you're in a consistent place of stress. And you're wanting to go to a regulated nervous system where your body can rest and digest. And it's going to take rewiring of your neural pathways and a shift in how you show up in the world. So the questions that I would ask is, how are you earning your acceptance and belonging in the world? And is that what is leading to your burnout? Are you willing to let go of how you are earning your worth and belonging and implement your innate worth and belong just as you are?
Well, and that requires you to make space for your needs, emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, making space and giving yourself permission to meet those needs. And that goes back to the main message of Mended Light, that you already have worth, that you are already worthy. So go ahead and give yourself these things. And in this case, a lot of times it looks like rest, and then rest some more.
Right. And
rest in a way that is supportive for you. I think of sometimes people are grieving and their friends want to get them out of the house. Get your mind off your grief, go have some fun. But maybe what's supportive is to stay in bed in your pajamas and not shower for 5 days. And just, I say that.
I don't know.
Depends.
It depends. It depends for sure.
But what is the most supportive thing for you? Because for some people in that circumstance, because this is just an example, but like getting out might be the right thing for somebody else. But for you, you need to stay in and lick your wounds for a while. And that's all about knowing yourself and giving yourself permission.
And recognize that it wasn't an overnight or a short journey to get you to where you're at.
Yeah.
It was a long journey, and those behaviors came from a very real and understandable place. And so you want to meet yourself with compassion and grace and understanding and not judgment and be like, oh my gosh, I messed up again. How could I do this to myself? How could I treat myself this way? I'm having all these health challenges because of the stress and the high cortisol. And, you could just devolve. So recognize that it's going to take longer than a day, probably, to get to where you want to go, and give yourself grace. Because I know sometimes I would get frustrated with myself because I'd be like, oh, I just need a day or I just need a weekend. And then I would be upset that I wouldn't be back to where I was at my high over-functioning place. And it's like, well, I'm 35 years into this. Maybe I need more than a weekend.
A big part of giving yourself permission to overcome burnout and take care of your own needs is to recognize that you deserve it, that you are already worthy of that, and that you have innate worth. To that end, we've got a video called Finding Your Worth that takes you even deeper into those concepts, which you can watch right now. You can click on it on the screen. I don't know where it is because I'm not actually on screen right now. I'm just sitting here. But it'll be fixed in post, or the link is in the description below. And let us know what helps you to overcome burnout, what helps you to unwind and recharge so you can face the challenges and responsibilities you have. Let us know, because we love it when our community helps each other out. Until next time, folks, keep shining.
We need your light.